John Dewey says, we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindful Living Podcast. I'm your host Sana, and around here, we are obsessed with one big question. How do we live in a hyper connected world without losing ourselves in the scroll? If you are listening to this, good chance your screen time report is, well, a little embarrassing. Your group chats are full, and yet some part of you still feels weirdly lonely or undernourished. You're not broken, the system is. Listeners, today we are talking about something that is trying to flip that script. A platform called Q at joinq.social. Well, Q is not pitched as social media, it is pitched as social growth. Instead of doom scrolling random content, it creates live conversations with people you have never met. So you can learn, grow, and actually use your daily life as a classroom. And listeners, my guest, David Coupland, he spent 15 years in film and TV working on projects like Star Wars and Game of Thrones, traveling the world, living what looks like a dream career on paper. Then he hit a deeper truth. He was successful and miserable at the same time. And that friction eventually pushed him to walk away, learn a whole new stack of skills, and create Q. So, listeners, today we will be talking about what or how he knew it was time to leave the so called dream job, why he thinks growth is something you practice or you can practice in everyday moments, what Q actually does differently from traditional social media, and some uncomfortable questions around monetization, privacy, whether turning everything into growth might secretly be exhausting. So grab some water, take a deep breath, unclench your jaw, and maybe open that notes app or take a journal because we are going to get honest about the future of connection. So, David, welcome to the Mindful Living, and it's an absolute honor to have you here with us.
It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for that eloquent introduction. I would say the most eloquent introduction anyone's ever given me. So, thank you for that.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you so much, David. Okay. Let's start at the moment. Most people, like, even I have fantasized a lot, like, how uh kind of walking away from the dream. Like, you're working on iconic franchises like um Star Wars, Game of Thrones. I mean, you have the credits, you may travel the story, like, um yet you say you were deeply unfulfilled and eventually walked away. I mean, what was the specific moment when you knew that, if I stay here, I am betraying myself? Because to me it looks as if um it's like a huge blow on your career if you would have made that decision.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely left that position and that trajectory, and it wasn't necessarily one moment. It was lots of moments, and I'll quickly add that when I was a child, when I was about 7 years old, I found inspiration in movies and TV series. I was so curious about all the people who
Mm.
these crazy adventures, the places they went to. I was so keen to go and explore, and
Mm.
most notably, I was so interested in stories about people saving the world. I thought that sounds good to me. That sounds like something I'd love to do with my life. And the first inspiration, of course, there was film and television, and having been inspired myself in that way, that was where my attention went. And I thought, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to go and travel the world. I want to meet as many people as possible, and I want to do it on a film set. And it was a long, I didn't know anyone in the industry. I didn't come from a place where I had contacts. I had to break my way in. But once I did, I got moving very quickly, and was very fortunate to get an amazing series of jobs. And I spent 10 years working internationally and in the UK on movies and TV series, a couple you mentioned before. And then
Mhm.
towards the end of that 10 years, though, I started to really think, I'm not kind of getting what I want out of this. And at that time, I wasn't clear with myself. I didn't understand what was wrong and why I wasn't getting what I wanted. But I really started to think about it. And I ended up at that time making a pivot to move away from being on set to working at a studio. And so I moved to HBO Studios in Los Angeles, where I spent 8 years in Los Angeles, 5 years at HBO, and a couple of years at other places. But in thinking that that was going to maybe give me more of a work-life balance where I could lean into other passions, what it
Mhm.
really did was just solidify to me that the path I was on, while yes, I was succeeding and I was getting promoted and I was doing these things, it wasn't filling my soul in any notable way. And over time, I become to realize that the fundamental thing as a kid that inspired me was the stories of people saving the world. And that was what was missing from my career. And most notably, the film and TV industry has changed so much in the last 2 decades and really focused much more on the business than the storytelling. And so that element was definitely a factor too. But ultimately, I just realized this isn't for me. I have talents, perspective, experience, and abilities, and I want to put this to use that is going to help as many people for as long as possible, as much as I can.
Yeah, yeah. I really love that, you did not sugarcoat anything here. I mean, because a lot of people listening, they could be or they are in the exact, double bind. I mean, everything looks good on the paper. Maybe on LinkedIn, everything is looking good. Bank account is looking good, acceptable. But then the soul is quietly screaming. Um, and what you are describing, David, it sounds like less like a dramatic leap. I would say it's not a dramatic leap, and more like a long. I think it's like these cascading, moments, like tiny betrayals, the little I'll just push through moments that eventually like stack into a life that we do not recognize at all. We do not recognize ourselves at all.
Absolutely, and another way I'll put it is, for me, it actually felt like a foregone conclusion that I would make that decision at that point, because my whole life I've had this sense I've been working on something. I've been very deliberate in paying attention and getting to know as many different people as possible because I wanted to understand myself as much as possible and understand other people in the world as much as possible. And I kind of had this sense from a young age that for the first period of my life, I was going to be exploring the world to get to those answers, to really find myself and understand how I can offer the most impact in my life. And it came to that time. The frustration with what I was doing was at a peak, and I was also feeling so much further from myself than I'd ever felt. And it was just a time I needed. This is it. Like, this is the moment. If I don't do it now, I will never do it.
Exactly, exactly. And David, when you left film and TV, I mean, you did not immediately jump into the next shiny startup, something, popularly we kind of, assume from all the people who would want to leave the quote unquote 9 to 5 stuff. You said before I build anything new, I need to understand myself. And that's a very, non VC sentence. So, what did understanding yourself look like for you day to day? Like, maybe through therapy or journaling, traveling, or wandering, any experiments? Like, what exactly looked like for you?
All those things and many more. Actually, I am.
Yeah.
I've been really for 10 years. I've been on a bit of a inward journey, and I would actually say that journey was sparked by yoga. I had my first yoga
Mhm.
experience when I was living in Malaysia for a year on a TV series, and I got my first opportunity to do yoga, and it turned out actually that there was supposed to be several people in this class, and no one else turned up. So I had my a one-on-one yin yoga session with this amazing teacher in this amazing environment, and it was still the greatest yoga experience I've ever had. But that moment, I think, was the first time in my adulthood that I had felt this connection between my mind, body, and spirit. Like it felt like it was in harmony. And that feeling, and I didn't know this at the time, this is on reflection, which I'd love to come back to what you said at the beginning about, experiences are one thing, but it's the reflections on them that really matter. Upon reflecting on that over the years, and as I come to understand a little more about myself, I'd realized that I hadn't felt that, and that was me, right? It was me in all my parts together. And so that was, for me, it was like, that's the North Star. I want to feel like that all the time. And I wasn't, right? And it took me a long time. And so how I did it was moment by moment, day by day, and with a clear understanding that I'm not going to get there overnight. And in fact, it's never going to end this journey. But the sooner I start, and the different
Mm.
way to explore to do it, the better. And you mentioned therapy. Yes, I've had a wonderful therapist over the past couple of years who's been amazing. Yoga has been one of my greatest assets. I love to walk and explore nature. I love to
Yeah.
talk to people. It's a huge part of what Q is. But um, for me, I always, again, have had this sense that the more people I meet and the more things I do, the more I'll learn and the more I'll grow. And like, if you don't do that, if you don't meet people and you don't do new things and you don't get out of your comfort zone, you live in a fishbowl. That's only as far as you're going to grow. I understood that quite young, and it's been a great advantage to me. And also something that's incredibly important to me with Q is helping people understand the bubbles they live in and the opportunities if they were to step outside of them.
Mm. That is interesting and fascinating, David. Interesting and fascinating. Oh, okay. Now let's talk about Q. What makes it different, David, from just another app out there? Oh my goodness, there's so many applications out there, but what exactly makes Q different?
Many, many things. So firstly, to come back to what we've just been talking about, my life and what I've developed over the years is very much got into Q. I would argue that Q is as much a product of me as I am of it. And
Mm.
Q itself, it's inspired by this idea, which I just mentioned, that most of what we know, we learn from other people and
Mm.
experiences. More things we do, more people we meet, more we learn, more we grow. But as I also said, most people don't meet new people, most people don't do new things, greatly limiting their potential and keeping them in bubbles. So with Q, I want to pluck people from their fish bowls and drop them in the ocean. Now, there's three big pillars on how I will do this. So the online, my app, the Q Anytime app, is just one piece of it and the first of it. But the three pillars are real life experiences, online experiences, and content. And I'll quickly give you an overview of each of those. So the real life experiences, I'm also an artist, a writer, a painter, a photographer. I tell stories. That's what I've been doing my whole life. I worked on the biggest productions in the world, and good at producing a lot of stuff like that. So I have a lot of different skills that allow me to create a lot of stuff on my own, which is great.
Mm.
Events, for example, I had a launch, like a trial experimental event in the summer, which was an immersive art exhibition, which actually told the story of Q through me, through 8 chapters. But each chapter was kind of backdropped with my artwork, whether it's a series of photos or it's paintings or whatever it might be that kind of relates to that part of my life and that part of the story. And between those chapters were performances by local artists, all created originally for Q. And I was testing really this sense of changing perspective and surprise experiences, and just kind of putting people in positions that they would not normally be in, and just seeing what it sparked. And so I intend to create a lot of experiences like that, where I really play with people in a very fun and creative way that helps them develop these curiosities about life. And we'll come back to curiosity because that's a fundamental part of Q and growth. But the other example I'll give of a live event, or sorry, an experience that I might have, is the Q Quest. So I live in Buffalo, New York right now, and somewhere in Buffalo, there's a box hidden, a Q box. And the person who finds that box is going to win not just a random prize, they're going to win a series of curated experiences that are designed to help them develop the Q mindset and also help them learn and grow in the areas they want and need to. And so, uh, uh, so it's not, again, it's finding the box is like, that's not the quest. The quest is, once you found the box, whomever it is, I'm going to
Mhm.
essentially focus on them for a few months and take them from where they are in that moment to, in the end, a whole new person who looks at life in a way that is going to allow them to maximize their experience on it. Now, there's some examples. There's many more things I'll do with that stuff in the future and as I grow. The second chunk is online experiences, and uh, Q Anytime is my app, and it's available now. No one's using it because I haven't been pushing it too much, so please use it, and that would be great, and we can start talking. And I'll also note, actually, with Q Anytime, that the original MVP, I had a team here at the university build the MVP for me, and two of them were Indian, and they were just wonderful, talented people who just did such great work for me, and I love them. And that's, so just to mention that, shout out to India, because there's so much wonderful talent and people in India. And it's, I was supposed to go in 2020 to India, but the pandemic happened, and that was but I will be there at some point. Anyway, Q Anytime was inspired by two things. One, I believe that the greatest existential threat that we face as a species is our inability to effectively communicate with one another. If we can't talk to each other, we can't solve problems, we can't grow together. And that's where I think we're at. And that's incredibly dangerous, because while we face these other existential threats, if we can't solve that one, all the others are inevitably going to get worse and worse. And so for me, I spent a long time looking at the world and thinking, there's these big problems, someone's going to sort them out, but no one ever did. And so for me, I'm like, we have to do it. And the inspiration was Q Anytime. And the idea is, Q Anytime is a very simple app. As you said, it's a video app. When you jump on and you sign in, you have three choices. You can pick a topic. Maybe it's mindfulness, maybe it's AI, maybe it's philosophy, whatever it might be. The amount of people you want to talk to and the amount of time you want to talk for, let's say 3 people for 30 minutes. You press connect, and you're connected on a video call. It's like a live Reddit almost, where you're on a video call and you're there to talk to people about philosophy, but they're people, as you mentioned, that you've never met before. And so you're right away, you're gaining these insights and perspectives and experiences that you would never otherwise get, and specifically about the topic you're interested in learning. But the first key of Q Anytime is talking, right? Communication. Like anything else, you only get better at it if you practice it. And if you're only talking to the same group of people all the time, that's as far as your conversation skills will go. So the idea
Mm.
for me with Q Anytime is that as people jump on and they connect with others to learn about these topics and get feedback and just investigate them in that way, what they're actually doing is they're talking to people from all around the world and practicing talking to people, right? Because, and then they're not even thinking about it. It's just a case of practicing by focusing on the topic with people that you don't really know. Now, the second big piece of Q Anytime, and also something
Mhm.
that's incredibly close to my heart, is the loneliness epidemic. And, you talked about social media at the beginning, and one of the biggest culprits, this illusion, we're going to create connection all around the world. But what they actually did was create disconnection and surface level connection. And so, and what that did is create lonely people. And when I conceived Q Anytime, 25% of people in the world considered themselves to be lonely. And that was horrifying to me at the time. I thought, that's just so crazy to me. Like, we need to do something about it. And of course, there are lots of people doing things about it, but I still didn't see this overall solution that everyone could kind of get around. And so now, 2 years later, that statistic is 50 to 60% of people consider themselves to be lonely. And it gives me goosebumps every time I hear that. And I just think that's like, how quickly that's expanded is terrifying to me. And so Q Anytime, again, is anytime you want, you can talk to people about the thing you want to talk about. And for me, like, I know that loneliness is, there are times I want to talk about things and there's no one to talk to that about. And there are times when I don't want to talk about things and there are people around. And there are two types of loneliness and a spectrum in between of that. And Q Anytime addresses that, and it has this real hope that I can help the lonely folks of the world as well. Now, the third thing, because I've been talking a lot, is content. Content is my history. It's my background. I love producing content. But the content I produce with Q, the ambition and the intention is to make it as human as possible. I have a couple of series already on the go. I have the Q podcast, which is my kind of update podcast. I have the other Q podcast, which is one of my favorite things in the world. And in that podcast, I spend 30 minutes with a camera on someone. Like, I do this in person, and the intention is I'm take this around the world, this podcast. And I spend 30 minutes talking to people, not about who they are or what they do, what they're working on, but how they feel, how they think, how they navigate life, how they solve problems, what their philosophies are, what their values are, and really give them, like, the ambition is to give them insights during the conversation about themselves that they wouldn't otherwise have. And at the same time, of course, as I'm learning myself from their experiences, the audience are learning from their experiences too. So that's a great show. Work on the Q Quest I mentioned before. So that winner will become the star of the Q Quest series. And there will be probably 7 or 8 episodes in that series where I will go and we will follow the experiences that I've set up for these people to help them learn and grow. And of course, the audience, again, is the idea is to learn from their experience, right? And kind of capturing that. So content's a really big part of Q and really will kind of pull the other two pieces together. And it's an ecosystem, it's a flywheel, and the ambition is as one grows, the other grows, and kind of all grow in harmony.
Yeah, yeah. This is absolutely amazing, and at the same time, I think um, it's quite an uphill task. But I'm really happy that you're doing something that you are so passionate about, not only for yourself but for others as well out there. So one question, David, that because all people would say, okay, everything is fine, the business model and the ideas, everything is good. You're doing it for the greater good, but then um, Q, I mean, it's also a company. You have Q anytime. Uh, so whenever we talk about human vulnerability plus tech, money, power dynamics, show up. So why should a listener trust yet another platform with their data, their emotional moments, or their attention? Like, what makes Q meaningfully different from other, as you mentioned, like, company would say, or a social media would say that, we care about you, we care about your connections, like, that eventually pivot into just ad tech or aggressive monetization.
Absolutely. For me, quite frankly, trust is built over time. I could say anything right now and it wouldn't make a difference. The reality is that people will come to learn about you and what you're doing over time. And that's important to me, transparency, openness. And you mentioned data.
Yeah.
So, okay, so most there's businesses and there's companies, and businesses make money, and companies have an agenda, like they have a purpose, they have a mission, and choose a company. But at the same time, it's also a movement, and like, I want to save the world, and I believe that helping people learn to connect effectively again is one way to do it. So, um, data is not something that is like on the top of my mind. And for example, with Q Anytime, uh, my intention is to never sell data to anyone. That's not the purpose of it, right? The purpose of Q Anytime is to help people learn vital life skills through experience and help them alleviate loneliness. It's not for me to get data to sell to people. Now, of course, over time, I will acquire data from Q Anytime, but that data will be used to further this mission of Q. And maybe there will be times when I might be wanting to share it with another organization or a nonprofit or whatever it might be. But here's an example of how I intend to build trust with people over time is if ever I have to make that decision or I contemplate making such a decision about the data of Q, as far as I'm
Mm.
concerned, that data is yours, right? It's everyone who's kind of contributing to Q and kind of joining the Quniverse. And so for me, I will ask you, right? I will go to people, and I think this is one of the uh, um, pitfalls of big companies is they don't like they say they talk to people, but they don't really talk to people. And for me, I think that's just really important because it's um like I want for me, like I think one of the greatest issues in the world today is that most of us don't feel safe in one way or another. And I want to instill a sense of safety because with safety comes curiosity, and with curiosity comes growth. So like everything I do, it's an understanding that it's bit by bit. And
Mm.
I would encourage people, if you're interested, don't just watch one thing or look at my video, look at the different things, right? And do the research and learn about me and what my intentions are and my history. And that's what I would say. And again, um, when it comes to, I guess I'll mention on like safety and how I think about protecting people and Q anytime. It's the internet, right? There are bad people out there and there will be bad behavior, but Q anytime specifically, I've built in a lot of safety features.
Mhm.
One case is if you're on a call and someone is being inappropriate, disruptive, and not just you know disagreeing with you, but really causing trouble, you can vote and the group can say you're out of there. When they get voted off, they get immediately suspended, and they get have a chance to come back, and if they get suspended again, they're kind of banned for that moment. And I will actually add that my long-term vision for those folks who kind of fall into that trap, is that to me, they're people who I want to help more than anyone in a way because they need it the most. So I would love in time when I have the resources and space to build some kind of program that would those people that get banned to bring them back into the fold to say, okay, look, we really want you here. We want to help you. We want you to be part of this. If you want to be, we'll work with you and get you there and we'll reintroduce you to the platform. That's how I'm trying to think about it. Now, you could also report and block people on calls, right? So you can immediately block them again. Let's say you vote and everyone's like, no, he's kind of okay. I just don't like them. Report block. When you do that, if you're connected to a call again, you will not be connected with that person at all. And obviously the report comes to me on Q. The other thing is you only ever see your first name in your country. So you can't search for anyone. It's not like you go on the platform and search for David Osana and you can find me. Like if you don't connect on the call, you'll never connect again, probably. Now you can add friends on the calls, but this is another safety feature for me. The friend requests don't come through until after the call because if they come through in the call and someone's like, "No, I'm good," create that tension and a bit of awkwardness, and to avoid that, the friend requests come at the end of the call and you can accept or decline. And again, if you decline, that person can't find you again, right? But if you accept it, they're on your friends list. And I will say that right now on the app, you can add the friend to the friend list, but you can't directly talk to them or video them yet. I'm working on that. I'm coding that in the next few weeks, so that will be an addition soon. But obviously, this is the early version, so it's kind of the core. So there's a lot of safety, and again, like for me, the big thing is the culture and philosophy of Q. Like it's been really important for me to build the foundations and give people a sense of what Q is through experience and through my experience before I really start pushing Q anytime. It wasn't, I didn't want to just throw the app out there and start getting people on it because the context wasn't there. And
Mhm.
the story and the purpose is everything for Q because that's the through line for everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that story and that purpose will, even if there is a slight possibility or chance of you know uh, diverting your from your path or from your aim, it will help you, kind of in homecoming. So yeah, that is, I think, the soul of the queue here.
I agree.
David, a quick question. So, you know, one particular, like, sometimes it's like this, elephant in the room, and people may not want to talk about it. One aspect of the social media or the social connect apps or the industry has been, let's say as a woman, I'm out there, going out there seeking, or, kind of exchanging knowledge, seeking some wisdom out there from people who are actually, maybe they have some extraordinary journeys in mindfulness or some really good ideas around, different parts of philosophy, something like that. But then there can be bad actors out there as well, which may kind of, hurt my psychological safety. So are there any specific guardrails for people even before going on queue and creating their platform? What kind of information? Like something is like a criteria filter is there?
Uh, so the thing with Q Anytime is, again, once it's up and running, really, again, there will be bad actors, right? That's because it's see, there's just no doubt about that. Everywhere you look, there are, we're a spectrum of people in this species, so it's impossible to avoid it completely. Um, but as I say, there are those features once you're on the call. But as you said, leading up to the call, though, uh, it's spontaneous, right? You're kind of randomly connected to people, and you kind of essentially you have so much power once you're on the call that if you do end up in that situation, one, you can just right very easily. Two, you can vote them off. Three, you can report and block them. So there's tons of mechanisms for us to kind of catch those people as soon as possible. But again, it's humanity. So but I'll also argue, and not to validate this, because I think that anyone that comes on and disrupts and kind of causes harm to people is just not a good player. But also, again, that's life, right? So if I were going on any internet platform, Reddit, right, or anything, just there's an assumption to me that there's a risk that I will meet a human. In fact, there's not even just a risk. It's like it's almost a guarantee that somewhere down
Mhm.
the road, you're gonna meet 1, 2, 10 people who aren't great people. And, to me, that is also preparation for life, right? So, there's a lot of, kids who, grow up and go to school, and then they go out into the world, and they've kind of been sheltered, and then suddenly they're, uh, exposed to people who they're like, "Whoa, this isn't cool." That is life, and it's not good, but it is life. And so I think
Mhm.
it's a part of it for me where I'm like, you should expect it. You can deal with it very quickly and efficiently when it happens. But you shouldn't be surprised in life when people show up who aren't great, because they will.
Mhm. They will. Yeah. Yeah. But the good thing is that, as you mentioned about those three or four features and safety kind of guards there, they lie with us. So we can make that decision instantly. So yeah, that is something I think is a good thing. Like if I keep myself from a or see myself from a user perspective here. So before we wrap up, David, I mean, we started with exploring your journey, kind of, the birth story of Q, and we talked a lot about the cost of staying in a shiny light that does not fit. We talked about using everyday experiences as fuel for growth. Then the messy, unnecessary questions, around turning that philosophy into a real product. That too in the tech and business ecosystem. So if listeners, they would like to explore more around Q, Connect, Q Anytime, and they would also like to connect with you, what would be the easiest way?
I would recommend people go to joinq.social. That's JOINQU.social. And from there, you'll find the more information about Q, but also the links to YouTube, to Instagram, to LinkedIn, where there's just a ton more information and content, and a lot to devour and to get a sense of me and of Q.
Super, super. Listeners, I'll have all the links in the show notes. So if you want to explore what David and his team are building, check out joinq.social. See how it lands in your body. It, it if it feels like support rather than pressure, cool. If it does not, that is also useful information too. And David, thank you so much for sharing your story. you're thinking with us. This has been such an enlightening conversation.
And thank you for such great questions and listening so well. And just it was just really nice to talk to you and to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David, and thank you to all the listeners who have tuned in. If this episode stirred something, send it to one person who is quietly questioning their current path. And maybe it will give them language for what they're feeling. So, until next time, this is a Mindful Living. I'm Sana. Take a breath, drink some water, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.